Okay, so welcome to the Q&A week number 2. Now, for clarity on what we're doing is, although it's week 1, week 2, week 3, it's an 8-week course. I've heard people in the course have said, I'm on week 1 and, I need to catch up and things, but you don't, because what's happened is it is an 8-week course, just for clarity, but it's going to be kind of ongoing. So as the Q&As start developing, it's really Q&As about everything to do with mastering, everything on the course. So it's going to be different things every week. It's not just, okay, we're all going through week 1, week 2, week 3, week 4 together. So really, you just go ask me whatever you want, basically, and we'll go from there. Let me just see what's going on. Sorry, I've just got to get used to having this in front of me. The live feed is a lot later than what I'm doing, so it's quite weird. But, hi Jesse. So ask me whatever you want. It's not just about week 1, week 2, whichever week you're on. Just go through the weeks. Now, people have also said, I'd rather skip on and not, I can see week 1, week 2. But of course, everybody, if I open the whole thing up so that we had all of it in one go, all you'd do is miss out all the front bit and just go straight to the end, where you would want to see me mastering and listen to what I'm doing and blah, blah. But the whole point of why I've sectioned it off into 8 parts, or 8 weeks, as we're saying, is because it's all the fundamentals need to be in place, and you have to go through all these setup things. Because when we get to week 7, where I'm really kind of going through track after track after track, all the things that are before will be referenced at this point. So by you learning everything before in the previous weeks, I know, you might see it for like one day, but you need to then through that week think about what I've said in those and maybe watch it a couple of times, look at your rooms, listen to music, really start getting an understanding for mastering as a whole and not just as mixing and things. And you're going to be looking at setups and stuff of not just your room, but of your equipment and the way that you run sessions and how to make tracks sound better before they're coming into the session and different EQs, the way I use those. So it's like all these fundamental basics week after week are all going to come together towards the end, where on week 7, where I'm just mastering stuff, I'll be going fast through stuff. So you'll be able to then go, all right, he's using a Bax on that. What's he doing there? Okay. And I'll say, go back to the Bax EQ one and you'll see what I was talking about there. And now I'm putting it in when I'm in the session. So it's kind of so that you understand all of that. So I hope you've kind of got that. I'll stop ranting on about it. But that's the vibe of it, basically. Beer, anyone? Love one. Although I'm on dry Jan at the moment, which is a bit dull. So any questions? Let's see. I've got some questions from comments that I've been asked this week, so I'll just hit in with those. Somebody asked me, what speakers would you recommend for around 2,500? I would... I'm really into the Neumann speakers. I thought they were really good value. I thought they were great. Apparently the Dion Audios are similar and they're a bit cheaper, but I haven't heard those, so I couldn't exactly say. Focal speakers, they're twins, they're super cheap, really. But that's really whether you like that tweeter for that. So I like the Beryllium tweeter, but some people don't. The head speakers are definitely worth looking at. They're really clear in the top end and they've got some nice tight mids. So they're a nice speaker to listen to. But the Neumann I found all round for that kind of price range was a really good option. So check that out. If you wanted something that was passive, I would look at the Amphions. I really liked the Amphions. They were good. So check those out as well. They can get expensive, the Amphions, when you start adding bass units and things, but just for the top end, really nice. And then week 2 is awesome. Thanks very much. Clear indication for everything I understand. Week 1, as already said in the group, was a bit short. Sometimes these might be a bit short to start with, but it's a lifetime kind of course and a lifetime, not that we're going to be here for the rest of our lives, I hope not, but it's so that we can kind of it will grow and it will build. So the more feedback you give me, the more I can add to it, the more I can change things. And then you can go back over and look over the new stuff that's come in. I'll always put an update in Facebook if things have happened. I've changed quite a bit this week. I've put some reference tracks in the first week so that I've told you what I like about those tracks. I'm going to add to those too. I think I've only put about 5 in there at the moment, but I'll add some more. And as you start telling me some, it's great because I can put those in and I can start listening to those and see what you're thinking and know where you're coming from. But at least you can understand what I listen to every time when I get new speakers in, or when I'm listening to, want to reference material on how my room sounds or how things sound as I move things around. My room's an ever-changing beast. As you can see, I've lost all my kind of stuff. It's looking a little bit messy there because I'm having a bit of a UAD nightmare, but there's I'm always changing, not changing dramatically. You shouldn't really change too much, but little tweaks, just always tweaking up, or maybe back down if the tweak isn't very good. So yeah, like I say, it's going to keep changing. It's it's a ongoing thing. It's going to be I just want to give you as much value as possible. Basically, I just want to give you as much information. And sometimes I think things are really boring and dull, but that might not be the case if you don't know them. So by asking me questions and by telling me what you want to know in these different sections, I'll be able to add things in that might seem like nothing to me, but you might get a lot of value out of it. So it's important to do that for me. Bernardo, thanks for the question. What's the level in dBs you recommend to work with? I read something about 80 dB. Yeah. I mean, I've heard that 80 dBs. I've kind of gone with that. I've got a unit. I don't know if you've seen it. It's a 2400 audio where it's got selected, where you can select how much level you want. And I've not done it with a meter. I've read too about 80 dB. I've kind of just done it to where I feel right. So I've got my top level. I don't want to go above that. And then I've got a couple of levels underneath that I like. Okay, that's quite a good one just for listening to detail on that. So I don't have a level in dBs to give you, unfortunately. I'll measure it though. Now if you want to know, I'll measure it at full level and see what it is. I'll be interested now you've said it to do that. But it's more kind of where I feel comfortable. I always found that when I had a volume knob, I would always be getting volume creep, and then by the end of the session it'd be so loud and pumping that because I'm getting into it and you just keep going up and up and up. So it's great to have a stop, which I've got now to stop that. So if there's any software or anything you can do on whatever monitor panel or however you're monitoring, if you've got a way of just having a stop or a limit on what you do, that's really important. It's good to know the level you're working at all the time, because I always keep to the same level, as I said, but the reason why, when I'm listening to those reference tracks and then I know how loud they are, I'm so used to that I then get a judgment on, how you just get a feel and a judgment on how loud things are. So I kind of then know, I'm there, I'm at the right level to sort of thing. I can see that from the meters, but I also want to hear it, because sometimes the meters aren't telling you the same thing as what you're hearing. You could be really low on the meters, but because it's if it's one, like a piano piece, it can sound really loud. So I would say I'll tell you anyway. I'll get you a number, but I would say just try and keep it at that level that you're comfortable with. Let's see, another question is from Ian. All things being equal, room acoustic wise, what crossover for the sub in the middle? I've always found that 80 hertz is my crossover point. Most times when I've used any speaker with a sub, 80's always worked. I would say that it's probably dependent on your speakers and your sub, but generally I've found that, that works for me, having it about 80, because that just seems to be a good point where, especially if you're on two-way speakers, that seems to be a good place where it's taking away, because obviously, you've got a crossover point. So there's going to be a curve that's, although it says at 80, it's going to be a little bit higher as it's taking off. So it's kind of getting rid of all the subs and everything out of the mid. So the mid can then play a lot clearer than trying to place, you know, sometimes they go down to say 40 hertz or something. So it's going to be trying to play 60 hertz or 75 hertz or something. And there's no point. You might as well just let the sub do that and let those speakers go, because, you know, those speakers are still going to be getting, as I say, because of the curve off, they're still going to be getting a little bit of that juice from that low end, but they're not going to be having that. Yeah, I would say, yeah, try 80. I always get excited because I raise the volume. All right, that's on the question before. Streaky, would you recommend upgrade my headphones? I have HD 600s. It's Aaron. Hi, Aaron. SM9s and NS10s as monitors. I mean, I personally found that one of my favourite headphones is the Sennheiser HD 800S that I tested out. There's a video of me using them. I loved them. They were so lightweight. You can get great bass on them. They're really easy to work on. I don't master with headphones a lot, but for referencing or if you're mixing or whatever, they were just really comfortable and really light and strong, and I just really liked them. They weren't overhyped in any way. They're just a really nice sound. So if you can afford to upgrade, I'd upgrade. Yeah, definitely sell the HD 600s and get the 800s. SM9s, I like SM9s. I found them quite bassy. I don't know how that. I think I saw it was that you that had a graph of your room online. I think it was, and it looked quite flat, I think. So I don't think you've got any problems with the SM9s with the bass. I thought you needed a bit more sub. If that's you, I think you're right. And NS10s, yeah, standard, it's perfect. Good setup, really. You get quite a lot of bass out of the SM9s, so that's quite good. And then you've got things. So yeah, I'd get some 800s, definitely. How often do I take breaks whilst working? With mastering it, with what I'm doing, it's very easy to take breaks because I'll be doing one track at a time. So I'll do that track and then I'm sort of doing something else once I'm exporting and doing whatever else I need to do with it. So it's easy for me to take breaks and not get too involved. If I've been working on an album and if I'm stuck in that and I'm really into the flow, I'll try and keep in the flow. I find that I want to get it done. I sort of get a track going, and then the next one's got a similar EQ, and then you kind of get in a flow. So I tend not to take a break. Maybe, I'll go and grab a cup of tea or something. So I'd say probably 2 hours is the max I'll sit doing something without grabbing a cuppa or, doing, some emails or something. But yeah, I kind of tend to take a break after every track because I do need to reset as well after every track. So yeah, take as many breaks as you can, really, just not too long. Are there any student discounts coming up on plugins? I guess. Tell me what plugins you're into and what you're after, because I can speak to plugin manufacturers and see what discounts I can get. So let me know what you're into, what you're looking at, why, and we'll see what we can get on the Anorak's newsletter. Because I don't know every plugin. So Steve Quandra says, I always hear wide and big masters. Is this done with mid-side only, and how do you do that properly? So it's really track dependent. It's also, it depends if somebody's, you've never heard the before and after. That's the problem when you hear mastered tracks. So you don't really know whether it was a mix thing, whether they've panned stuff in that way, especially, or whether it, because to take a mono track and make it wide is quite difficult, but because you haven't got a lot of information in the stereo side of things. So I'll show you later in the course. I'll obviously go in massive depth on stereo width and things and how you get that and how you get that without it sounding too phasey, because that's the main thing. A lot of stereo width plugins, and I've actually got the Fusion here at the moment, if you can see behind me, which I'm checking out, and that's got a width button on it, and when you go too wide on it, it sounds so phasey and weird that it just ruins the mix, really. And I always found that when I had a Masalek one as well, it was just, although that sounded really nice, but you couldn't go too wild on it. So I've always found those plugins that do that as well are crazy. So yeah, a lot of the times I will play around with MSEQ and I'll do some stuff in the outside. I'll show you that anyway when we get into the EQ section. and you'll hear that when I'm doing mastering tracks later. But yeah, more MS and but not too much MS. MS is a real thing where people think that's the kind of secret and the golden ticket, but it really isn't. It's it can absolutely ruin tracks as well. So really go careful. I will run through that in more detail, but yeah, that's why they sound big. Will there be a chance in this course for us to master a track? Maybe a track you'll bring in and give feedback. Yeah, cool, definitely. Yeah, in that EQ section, the homework will be to master a track I'll give you, and then we can put it in the comments and everyone can listen and see what you did, see what I did, and then definitely, yeah, of course. Aaron, thoughts on MS compression? Again, I do use it in the low end, but not a lot. On subs I use it, but only obviously in the mids, and I take some of the sides away. So occasionally, but not all the time. And then Costas is currently, sorry, there's quite a few comments coming in, which is good. Better than last week, we didn't have any, although I couldn't find where the comments were last week, so that wasn't exactly great. Is it currently a budget choice to choose Sonarworks? Yeah, over Trinov, yes. Maybe you felt the combo of the two Avias and Sonarworks does more in your space versus Trinov alone. Really, if you bought those and Sonarworks, it would probably be the same price as Trinov. The Trinov is like kicks the arse of Sonarworks. Sonarworks is basically just EQing the speakers, and it's very flat. And you don't think that when you haven't tried Trinov, but Trinov basically will check the phase of the room up, down, wherever you, and you just get this massive, although it does the EQ thing, which is nice, you get this 3D depth as well from where it sorts the phase of the room out, and it just sounds really good. So Trinov is a joy to work with. It just sounds so good. And it just really gives you this kind of solidness and space that just moves the track around. I mean, they use it a lot in cinemas and for mixing for picture as well. They've got it a lot in Pinewood around here. So I had one in, it was great. I might buy one. They're a few quid, they're about 6,000, so we'll see about that. But these, I've just been lent these for a while. I haven't got these for good. They're really good. They're really good. They, you know, ideally you have that and Trinov and you're done. And then, you know, but with Sonarworks, yeah, it's a poor man's Trinov really, isn't it? But it's, you know, it's still good for the money. Just go careful with Sonarworks and Trinov and all these things, because you need to get your room as flat as you can without them and then move on to them. And then also I find that I don't have them fully in the mix. I'm a bit more laid back on that. So yeah, go easy. Go easy with that, because you can fool yourself. And also you don't really want to EQ your speakers too much. You want to get it so that you can hear the speakers. If you've spent money on speakers, and you probably have, that you want to hear how they sound, and they need to be part of it, and you need to feel that. And it can start sounding really flat sometimes when you're using too much room correction, and that doesn't make for a fun listening experience. So, you know, the more you can enjoy it, the better you're going to be, I think. Daniela, what do you think of the Better Maker limiter? I've not heard it. I've heard it's really good. I need to get it in to check out. It's the features on it look brilliant. I've asked about getting one in, but it just hasn't popped up yet. So I will get one in, and I'll do a review of that on YouTube. I like the fact it's analog but plug-in into control. Yeah, I mean, it's cool. It's really nice what they're doing. The EQ, they've got a new mastering EQ out as well, which I'd like to see. So, but the limiter, yeah, I know people who have got it who rave about it. So I'd like to get it in, check it out, see how good it is. I know some of the metering on it's worth having just for that. So, hello Antonio, you did miss the start. Never mind. Room acoustics wise, Ian. Room acoustics wise, what happens if Sonarworks graph goes against traditional wisdom? E.g., in my room, the left and right wall mirror points are better according to the graph without padding. Yeah, but the thing is, what's happening there is if you haven't got, you're still going to be getting the reflections in your ears. Okay, the Sonar Works is probably going to sort out the EQ of the room, and it might look better like that. But it's really the reason why you've got padding on the sides is to stop reflections, so you're getting like there's more reverb times and things like that. So yeah, SonarWorks isn't going to show you that. SonarWorks is just going to work out the top and the bottom, and it can be getting fake information because it's getting reflections from everything. So get rid of as many reflection points as you can. That's why I've got rid of these pods in front of me. I'm just trying to minimize everything as much as I can. So don't worry about that graph. I would look at some other software for measuring your room that's quicker and probably more accurate. There's the I think it's REW or something, and there's also the fuzz measure which I use, which is really simple. That's why I like it. Daniel, I've got the better maker and the latest EQ. Okay. Woofu, do you ever add reverb to a master? Sounds silly, but if so, why? How do you high part? All right, a few little questions. Okay, I'll answer the first one. Add reverb to a master. I've never added reverb to a master, ever. Now, people say you should, people have, and they do, but I don't know any single pro mastering engineer that adds reverb. So, no. The only time I have is if I'm doing a tail, if the tail was cut really badly and I just need to get a little edge just so I can then overfade that reverb. So I might use a bit of reverb just very much on the very end of a fade if it's just cut and they can't get me another version or something. I might just for the sake of, you know, a second at the end, just get that so that I can make a smoother fade without it dropping in the middle of the fade. So only in that situation, but apart from that, I've never used reverb. I don't, why? I just, no. Do you high pass the side signal? No, I don't. Do you hide past the side signal? No, I don't know why I'd want to do that. I'm trying to think of reasons why, but I wouldn't. Can you add depth in the mastering process? Yeah, of course, definitely. I mean, that's what you're doing with dynamics and EQ. It's all about depth. It's all about space. That is good mastering. That is professional mastering. That is all you're trying to do is add space and add it so that you can hear everything in the picture in front of you. So that, you know, the way I listen to music is I've got an image in front of me and the frequencies stack up, and then spatially I'm listening as well, and that means depth and everything. So a lot of the times the reasons why I didn't go to plugins early on was because I wanted that depth, and I found that plugins were very flat and had a kind of sheen on them. That's changed a lot, obviously, in the last few years. Plugins and computers are getting better so they can handle it. But, you know, that's why I used analog. You got that depth, and that's why I still use a little bit of analog hybrid just to add a bit of that. But, you know, I found a lot of plugins aren't as bad as they used to be, so hence why I'm able to do this now, really. So going on to Daniel Salvador, also I'm not really a professional engineer like people that are here since starting out. Is there a chance at the end of the 8 weeks you get a certificate? You do get a certificate at the end. You get a little certificate saying that you went through the course. So yeah, you do get that at the end for your wall. You might get some other goodies from me at the end as well, but we'll see how that goes. Promises. Did you listen to Aurora? No, I didn't. Sorry. I haven't listened to I haven't listened to any reference material since I put that up. I think it was only yesterday or the day before I put that up. I haven't looked in there to listen to anything else. I've been kind of hard at it. Plug-in Vice, I'm hoping for a plug-in DS1. Okay. Steve, I have 2.4 foot bass traps on each side. Should I hang them off the wall or the floor? Really, bass traps, I would be wanting to put them in the corners of the room. So I don't know if you can see here, I've got a couple down the sides just so that, you know, go round and listen to where the bass build-ups are and that you want to put some traps there. You're not really going to, you're not going to be able to trap as much bass as you think in your room because you just can't. It's unless you've got like masses and masses of rock wool. So you're going to be able to do a certain amount, but not a great deal. So yeah, all corners should be covered with some kind of, you know, thick bass trapping. I would say that's how I found it works for me. So do you each side on the floor? Yeah. So yeah, put them on the floor. The thing is, if you start putting them at the sides, I've always found that if you've got two deeper traps on the sides, it starts really dulling it out a lot more. So it's kind of suck it and see with your room and see how deep those traps go, because the deeper they go, it seems the duller they get, obviously, because they're stopping more kind of things happening. So I always go for kind of like four inches on the sides, and yeah, bass trap I've got sort of 10 at the back. So that's kind of what I do. I would prefer a little bit more livelier room. It's kind of, you got to tailor that to your taste, and then just try and trap all the corners and the back wall. And I've also got my front wall, you'll have seen from the videos. So I hope that helps. Nate, you're enjoying the course so far. Thanks, Nate. If you've got anything you want me to add, let me know. So would you get rid of a table too? Yeah, definitely. I've got a table here, unfortunately, but I need that for work. It's kind of annoying me. So we'll probably come up with a solution for that at some point. But yeah, I would get rid of any reflection points. As I've said in the course, you need to get rid of everything in your room that isn't working in your favour, as in, are you using it? Have you used it? Don't worry about what people think. I think that the problem is everyone wants to have all the equipment in the world and have, so that when someone walks in, they're like, oh, it's amazing, you know, but that's so old school. That's so, you know, like having a massive SSL desk for the hell of it, just so that, you know, it looks good when the INR man comes in, but you're only using 2 faders. It's just ridiculous. We're not in 1980, forget it. So no, get rid of everything, tables, whatever you can that's going to be a reflection point. Just get your room as minimal as you can and you will get a better sound for it. So yeah, table's gone. FabFilter Pro, Aaron, FabFilter Pro L, I found that no lookahead sounds great for yeah, the lookahead, the lookahead can start sounding, it dulls it a bit, doesn't it? It starts pulling it back and not getting the sharpness and things. But sometimes you need it because you're gonna get distortions and things happening without the lookahead. I'll go right off on one on the Pro L when we get to that point in the dynamics section of the course. But yeah, I do use it a bit because sometimes you have to, because otherwise you start getting some weird stuff happening. But it does, it certainly does take the edge off, I think. Same with some other bits on there too. I mean, Ian, you're building a room, ideal room sizes to avoid, I mean, you just want the biggest room you can get, really, don't you, to a point. But I always wanted a room that was, say, 4.5, 5 meters by 6.5 meters, just because I always felt that was a comfortable space to be in and work. I've worked in rooms that are huge before, like ridiculously huge, that sounded dreadful, and they'd spent, Soundmaster this was, he'd spent probably 300 grand on building the room, you know, different certain plies for the floor or whatever, and it still sounded bad. So I think it's more to do with what you feel comfortable working in. And yeah, from a distance, obviously you want the back wall as far away as possible and the side walls as far away, because it gives the sound time to travel. And obviously bass, it's going to travel. You know, the person I would listen to is Acoustic Fields. Go to his YouTube. He's like the king of acoustic treatment. And so you can also mail him and ask him questions about room sizes and what he suggests. So, you know, I'm a practical person. I've learnt from trying things over the years and building my own rooms and listening to other people, and that's how I've learnt. So I've learnt what works for me. But if it depends how much money and space you've got, basically. If you can build a huge room with loads of really nice trappings and the walls all done how you want, and I mean Northwood Acoustics, check out their website. They've got some beautiful builds that they've done. They've just built Sterling's rooms for them. You know, they're all suspended on massive springs. I mean, it's just a joy, you know, lovely situation to be in, to have £500,000 to spend on a room to build it, but hey ho. Anthony John Hay Street, so you think, would you high pass the sides if you want to tighten the base towards the centre? If you don't have an elliptical filter for vinyl. Oh, okay, so this was following on from the question earlier. I get what you're saying. So yes, I do that. I have done that, and that's a really great way of bringing the bass in tighter at the bottom, is to high pass the sides so that it because you can really then adjust exactly where you want it and how much, and shapes and things. So you can really get into depth on how the bass is sounding. There will be a huge section on that, because that's things that I really like. But I've also found that sometimes by not high passing the sides and adding a little bit to the sides works too. So it's not always a question of monoing the bass. It just depends on the track, really. Val, what's your dBu level when you're converting from digital to analog and from I don't have special levels that I deal with. When I'm going into if I'm going into analog stuff, I will be going in to I'm going to gain stage through my analog equipment, basically. So the way that I work is I'll EQ, I'll do some EQ or whatever in the box. Then I'll come out of my D to A at a decent level so that it's still got space to then go through my equipment. So I would say, if I've got to talk levels, I would sort of, I don't know off the top of my head, -10 for cash. I don't know, about -10-ish. And then I'm going to gain up through my equipment so that I'm hitting the level of the A to D, depending on the A to D. On my prisms, I'll hit it so that I'm going into the reds, and then I'll pull it back. But it really depends then on the equipment that I'm using, and then how I'm gain staging through that equipment. But I won't go into the reds on the A to D. I've got a Lavry in at the moment, which you can push that harder. I used to have an Apogee Rosetta. If you see one of those for sale, buy it, because they're brilliant. And they've got a really good sound, and they're really you can smash into those and get some really good distortion going on the A to D side. So it really depends on your A to D and how much you can push it. I don't like the sound of pushing the prisms. I don't think that they sound good in that respect. So yeah, I mean, it's more a question of how much I'm gain staging. I'm going to be coming out of the box as like basically back into the box as loud as possible, so then I can then start adding limiters and whatever I want to do within the box again. So because you've got still probably, when you get back in after hitting 0 ppm, should we say, I've probably got another 6 dB to find after that, which I'm going to find with limiters and EQ or whatever I want to do after that. So yeah, there's things to do that will then get me to that level, which is then -8 RMS, which is what I'm aiming for a commercial track, or -10 if we're being a bit more dynamic. But yeah, I hope that answers that. Jesse, hi. How much treatment did you have at Battery Studios? My current room is the same dimension. Well, my studio at Battery was tiny. Can't even edit that out, can we? So my studio at Battery was really small. So I guess your room is. It was, I can't remember what the dimensions were, but yeah, that was fully treated though. That's why it was smaller. We had trapping. was basically cloth walls. It was a classic studio. It was built in the 80s. It had cloth walls, and they were probably about that thick with rock wool all the way around. It was pretty dead in there. That's the ceiling as well. It had carpets on the floors. Yeah, it was pretty dead, but it was really small, so I didn't have massive speakers in there. I used to have some Genelec S30s. I don't know if you know those. I really like those, actually. They're brilliant. And they had just about enough bass so you could hear what was going on, but no subs really at that point. It was early on. I did master some good stuff in there, though, but, you know, it was, yeah, it was tiny. So I would... yeah, you can't put too much in because it's too small. But just make sure you don't monitor too loud. That was what I found. If you start monitor too loud, everything gets a little bit too hectic. So just go kind of quiet and get a level where you can hear what's going on without pushing it too much. Frank, do you often get turds to master? And what's your workaround for that? Yeah, of course I do. There's a great deal of turdage going on in my mastering room. You just got to get on with it. I mean, there's a section in the where I talk about RX and stuff and prepping files, and that's kind of going to show you some turdy stuff. And you have to go back. You have to work with the producer or the artist and really try and get them to sort the mix out and get that right and try and get that as good as you can before you then master it, because you need to give yourself a head start on how how good you can get the track to sound after mastering, and by giving them a little few tips and stuff, because a lot of the times mix engineers have slammed a limiter on it and it's going to be smashed to hell. So because they need to do that for the A&R and for them when they're listening in their cars and things, it's like a kind of rough master, which is great to have as a reference when I'm mastering. But yeah, so you need to get them to take all that rubbish off and just give you the flat mix. But yeah, what do? You're only as good as the mix you get, really. When you're a really top mastering guy, your turdage goes down and you're not having to do too much, and that's really what you want. But yeah, you have to know how to pull it out of the bag. And fortunately, or unfortunately, as the case may be, I've done a lot of turdage stuff that needs to, so I know how to pull those out of the bag, definitely. Danilo, would you recommend the SM9? I need new monitors, something to mix. A lot of engineers are using them, also for mastering. When it comes to the SM9s, I actually preferred the trios when it comes to focal speakers or focal. I preferred those because you could have them sideways or vertical. So, and vertically they sounded better, I thought, than they did horizontal. So I would listen to those if you're thinking about the SM9s. If you like those, that kind of tweeter, then look at those. I wouldn't say look at what other people are using, to be honest with you, because room's really important to what you're doing, your budget, and there's a lot of things that go into buying a speaker. So it's a guide to look what other people are doing, but try not to just be swayed by what other people like. Try and listen to your reference material and your room, and then try and get some speakers in on demo that you can check out and listen to. You know, they should be sending you some speakers along if you're spending that kind of money, and just for you to hear and try. Again, I would listen to the Neumanns, and they've got bigger versions of the Neumanns too, and get the bass, some subs on there. But definitely look at the trios. I like those. They were nice. I preferred those to the SM9s. The SM9s, as I said earlier, a lot of bass going on. So as long as you can handle that bass. Steve, we'll also get pre-masters that need some issues to be fixed. Let's say you could have basically in the real world scenario, we would get a track and can't get a mixed vision. Yeah, definitely. I mean, when I'm mastering stuff on week 7, I've got stuff where it's a rubbish track and we get it sounding good, and you'll see how I get it sounding good. That's totally the whole point of this course, is so that you can take something from a really rough sounding demo to a really good sounding master. That's exactly why I'm doing this. It's yeah, yeah. I mean, yeah, it's not going to sound like Jay-Z, is it? But you're gonna try and get it near enough. Brand new John. Hello everyone, Streaky. No one has touched the subject of parallel compression on a master. How can a mastering engineer don't know what you're talking about with the PC thing, but parallel compression, yeah, parallel compression, I sometimes use it, sometimes don't, depending on the track. It was really popular before we had loads of plugins. So Leap Wing, check that out. This is a great plugin for parallel compression. I've got other things that are like upward compressors and stuff that I like to use. So parallel compression was all the rave in the 80s for someone like Howie Weinberg, famous mastering engineer, who used to use parallel compression a lot to get sort of smashing bass. But yeah, you don't need to use it as much now because in the same way he did, because obviously he was analog then, so he was pushing two compressors against each other. But it's a lot easier to do it these days, and there's software that does it. Leapwing obviously is one, so check that out. Ian Aitkins, what? I know you use Prism DTAs. What's your experience, if any, using the UAD Apollos for D2A? Do you rate the UAD? I was wondering if it was worth me experimenting the Prism DTA Crane Song. Crane Song over the Prism, I reckon. And the UAD I've not listened to, so I can't. I tried to get it in, but we couldn't get it working, so it went back again. I will get one in so that I can check it out, because loads of people have asked me about the Apollo. I would say anything by Crane Song is a joy. Their quantum stuff, I had the D2A in here. I didn't have the head, but I had the D2A and it was brilliant. The Solaris, loved that. But you know, Prisms was still brilliant. So I've just kept the Prism for the moment. I like it as much. I'm so used to that sound, and it's such a nice, so forgiving sound. Really smooth, sounds really professional. So I really like it. But Crane Song, yeah, just as good, if not a touch better. A bit of a waiting list for the head one at the moment, I think. I love what you say about the Rosetta of the 800. Yeah, it's brilliant. Also, if you have got the Apogee, look at Black Lion Audio, because they have some mods that they do for it. So check that out. Might be worth a couple of quid to change your chips and move things around a bit. I want to experiment with the clipping. Best outboard compressor is the Fatso. Could that be used on a master? I've not used the Fatso, so I can't tell you that, unfortunately. But anything can be used as a compressor on a master. You don't, you know. Obviously, it's just going to have its own sound. So you want to have certain sounds for certain things, and you want to be going as high end as you can, really. So if you can get a sound out of the Fatso that you like and it's doing something good, why not? It's not. There's no rules. There's nothing that says you can't do this, you can't do that. It's all about using your ears and deciding whether that's affecting the track in a good way, because that's ultimately it. Is it making it better? Yes or no? How does it sound? That's all you've got to ask yourself all the time. So Jesse, you say here you're monitoring Not Loud Anyway. You've got the OS Acoustics and Eve. Nice work. I like the OS Acoustics. Had those for ages. He took them away because I think he was running out of pairs to sell. But yeah, great speakers, really nice speakers. And the Eve is really, it's a good combo. Definitely a good combo. Yeah, in that size room, really good, because you could switch the bass off, and they still work really well. But I did find that those speakers, actually, the way you've got them with an Eve, is they did actually work better. The speaker, as I said earlier on, played back really well. So yeah, I like that choice. Wufu, do you use software clippers? Yes. Do you use multiple limiters in series? Yes. Which one working? Each one working a small amount? Yes. All three. Amika, is that right? Is that your name? I've got the Neumann's 120s. They come alive with the sub. Yeah, didn't try it with the sub, but I Isoacoustics, yeah, definitely get some isoacoustic stuff. The pucks, buy the pucks. They're not massively expensive. If you haven't got anything under your speakers, get the pucks. That'd be your best bet. You'll love it. SSL for parallel compression. Yeah, it's a sound. Like I just said, you can use anything. It's like, just try it and see what it sounds like. Try different compressors as the punchier one and see what sound that develops. There's no rules to this. Just try stuff, listen to it, see if you like it. Would I use the DSP on the head? Yeah, why not? Try it out, see how it sounds. Definitely. What do you think of the Audent converters? Not heard them, so I can't give you a comment. I don't understand. Radu, you say, what's the next step in your course besides the Q&A? I don't know what you mean. Expand. Quick gear question. I think you had the Dutch and Dutch with the cardial bass thing going on. Yeah, I did have the Dutch and Dutch. I've actually got keys behind me as well still at the moment, which I can spin round and use as reference monitors, which is kind of showing off, isn't it, really, when you've got 10 grand speakers there and 40 grand there. But I didn't, they've just lent me those for the moment. I'm checking them out because I really like them and I just want to see what they sound like. So yeah, because I had them in my old room and I haven't tried them in here and they're sounding really good, but I need to put them that in so that I can hear them properly. I think we're coming to a close now because Matt's about to die from watching me speak for all this time. Let's just get another couple of questions in. What's the best way for you to monitor consistent volume? You can get a sound meter, but as I said earlier on, kind of judge for yourself what the level is you like, and then work out see what the SPL is, and then try and keep to that. If you know, it's kind of like a speedo on your car. It's your foot will get used to where it is once you do it all the time. So just keep a regular level, and then you'll hear that, and then try and find a way of limiting your system so that it won't go any louder. So turn your amps down, but keep your preamp so that it will go on full blast. So if you do get monitor creep, you know you're not going to be pushing the speakers. One of the main problems with that is if you're pushing the speakers too hard and you're getting distortion on the speakers, you're not going to know if you're putting that distortion on or whether that distortion is the speaker and the amp. So definitely worth trying to sort of limit how loud you're listening. Angel, how loud do you go from analog to A to D level? Yeah, I don't clip them. So as I said earlier, go to as loud as you can without it clipping, and then drop it back a bit, and then gain stage again after that. That's what I found works for me. Depends what converter you're using. Again, as I said. Is this still live? I think we're still going. Okay, last question then from you should have email from me. Yeah. So how do you find balancing non-detented analog equipment left and right? Do you have any tips for balancing the stereo image? Yeah, I mean, ideally with that, I'll always, if it's an old bit of equipment that hasn't got detented pots, I'll use a China graph pen on the equipment to then mark exactly where I know the points that I like, if it's like 1, and I'll measure that with a VU meter running a 1K tone through, and then find exactly so I can balance it, good enough for rock and roll, as they say, but balance it to kind of 0 and then +1 if I need to. If it's a compressor, I'll try and leave it. So I'll try and leave it in the place it was, and then I'll put gain going into it rather than lifting the gain manually if it hasn't got. But yeah, you have to basically just try and leave them as is, or if it's like an EQ or something, you just mark on there all the different points and try and do them as accurate as possible by doing the 1K tone test and measuring on a VU meter. Okay, Randu, I think you're saying that you only got started 10 days ago, which is fine. Listen, you don't have to be starting at the same time as everyone else. I know this is the early days of the course and it has only been going for a couple of weeks, but as time goes on, people are coming on board all the time. It's not like you need to be at any point as everyone else. You're not missing out on anything. All the FAQs will be filling up within the sections each week. I'll be adding to those and pulling out the best stuff and showing new stuff. It's going to be building and growing. You can go back at any time and rewatch things and see I will have updated, and I'll email and I will tell you on the Facebook group what I've updated, so you can go back and have a look. So don't worry that you're maybe a bit behind other people or someone's finished the course or what have you. Don't worry about that. Just do it in your own time. Take 2 weeks over week 1 if you need to. I know you won't need to, but seriously, just let it all soak in. Get yourself in the spirit of mastering, and you'll soon come to a point of being good. Oh, you were here from the start. Okay. Well, thanks. Okay, well, I'm going to call it a day now because we're coming at 6 o'clock and I need to go home. But and Matt looks like he's about to shoot someone. So thanks for all the questions. Brilliant. Exactly what I want to do. So next week, same time, same place. And yeah, get your questions ready. Can't wait to speak to you again. Thanks for, please, feedback. Give me loads of feedback. I want feedback on the course. So tell me what's good, what's bad. Don't worry about hurting my feelings. I don't care. I'm thick-skinned. I can handle it. So yeah, give me anything you want, or tell me if you think it's great. Brilliant. Anyway, see you later. Thanks. Bye.